Welcome to Human Skills Project, where my good friend Ted Mouradian and I talk about human skills. Ted is established author, human skills developer, a founder of 2% Factor. So, Ted, we have done this in other episodes too. So, quickly for the audience, let's say who are listening to this episode for the first time, how would you introduce yourself and your work?
You could say I'm a relationship management consultant.
Mm,
We developed the 2% factor with my business partner, but I also created and founded the law of cooperative action and the cooperative action model. And
mhm,
we teach human skills. I guess you could call it anything you want, human skills, how to navigate the stream, which we've
mhm,
talked about in other episodes. But it's
mhm,
really how to deal with all the stuff that happens.
mhm,
Life is not fair,
mhm.
and it's how we navigate that. And so, as I bring that to everyone, of course, your job, Feroz, is to bring the academia to it, and so that we can meld the two together.
Right. That's how I usually talk about Ted to other friends of mine or colleagues of mine that um, my entry to the world was largely through academia, through a lot of readings. But however, there's always a phenomenal difference between what you read, what you research, what you write in comparison to the real world. Because one of the things that I think a lot of the times you forget to appreciate is that the real world can change in a matter of a second. So many moving pieces. So any amount of pre-planning, having like, oh, this is going to be the album of my life is not going to work. So today, Ted and I, we decided to talk about one of the challenges pretty much anybody faces. So, in 1929, Harvard sociobiologist Edward Wilson um, made a very famous observation that humans live in a world where we have our brain that is very primitive. He said it the Paleolithic age brain, like a Stone Age brain. Our institutions are medieval institutions, but the technologies that we have developed is godlike. Think about what we can do with technologies. We can go to space, moon, we can genetically modify things. Humans have been genetically modified in 2018. So humans can be cloned now. This is not according to me. This is well done. And it has already been done in China. And the guy who did it, he was also sent to prison for 3 years for modifying humans. So, Ted, you can definitely appreciate that we live in a time where you have artificial intelligence, you have genetic engineering, you have exponential capacities of digital technologies. How do we, in your view, because you have lived different life, different times, how do you think what are some of the biggest challenges we face in 2023 in terms of technology, institution, and our monkey brain?
Our monkey brain. Well, it's funny because I mean, I'm 75, and I was brought up in a time when um, I saw computers come to age. I saw the cell phone come to age, the internet come to age. Originally in business, if you had a fax machine, you were way ahead of the curve. And, so uh, I was born at the time TV was actually born. And
Mhm,
we went from black and white to color. So,
mhm,
I mean, this still fascinates me.
mhm, mhm,
It
mhm,
fascinates me. But I think the interesting thing that I try to bring to people is stay centered in yourself and how you actually look at the world from yourself.
mhm,
I can give you very quickly the six basic
mhm,
tenets. I
mhm,
celebrate everybody's right to be who they are.
mhm,
Um, Number one. Number two, I do no harm. Number three, when I speak respectfully, directly, and honestly, telling people what they need, not what they're doing wrong. Number
mhm,
four, I come from a place of if I can, I will, but I will not lose my sense of self.
mhm,
Number five, everything's based on mutual trust and respect, not power and ownership. And
mhm,
number six, there are times when you just have to walk away and let it go. Now, when I'm centered in myself
mhm,
and um, I understand who I am and what I need. Very rarely can I be tricked by technology.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people today who are tricked by technology,
Mm-hmm.
and I use that word tricked, or drink the Kool Aid, as we say, or fall for whatever is happening. Oh my God, they said I can do this on the internet. Um, I think for myself, I look at something and I say, I'm not sure whether that's right because I don't need
Mm-hmm.
to buy that stuff. We talked in other episodes about needing to be loved and
Mm-hmm.
wanting it. I know that when people need something, they want that magic pill. They want
Mm-hmm.
to lose weight instantly. They
Mm-hmm.
want to get into a relationship instantly.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are occurring even more, especially with AI and all of those things happening. So I think it's very important that people sit back and really look critically at what's giving to them. I know
Mm-hmm.
that I do a lot on social media, and all of a sudden I'll get a new friend on Facebook that says, so and so is a friend. So I look
Mm-hmm.
at that, for example, and I look at their profile, and if all I see is two or three pictures of them, that's fake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yes.
learning how to navigate the stream, learning how to be in control without being controlling,
Mm-hmm.
and learning that not everything you see is true.
Yeah. So what? And I have taken the keyword. Probably we can do an episode on that. Um, how do I ground myself in my? How do I feel secure in my sense of self? And you can help us navigate that. How the tenets you have developed in law of cooperative action can help us. Um, I think one way I look at your model, I look at your what you have developed for human relations is a mental model. So, how do I say mental model? Philosophers, social scientists for a long time, they have seen, and it is right, as we discussed in previous episodes, that human brain evolved to survive. So, if humans had to analyze, see everything, like nitpick it, tease it apart to understand, we would not be able to go on with our day. So, what we do, we create mental shortcuts. So, a lot of the things we do automatically, our brain has three layers: the old brain, the emotional brain, or the limbic system, and then you have the prefrontal cortex, which is the latest brain. Um, a historian who has been looking into the addiction for the past 40 years, named David Courtwright, he names it the limbic capitalism. What limbic capitalism? So, what does this limbic capitalism is that our modern economy, in so many ways, depends on addiction.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, addiction is used because how the companies, whether the technology companies, so you would be surprised to hear the technology companies will hire neuroscientists, will hire sociologists, will hire behavioral scientists. Why? Because they want to create behavioral addiction in using technology, and it is directly connected to their business model. Because when people are addicted to social media or YouTube or any of those things, the more time they spend on it, they get more attention from us. And that is the business model for generating advertising revenue.
Well, that's yeah. Go
Mhm.
ahead. That's where tenet number one. When I did my research,
Mhm.
I found that all humans want to
Mhm.
be is loved,
Mhm.
noticed,
Mhm.
cared for,
Mhm.
liked.
Mhm.
That happens with our children. Mommy, daddy,
Mhm.
look at me, look at me, look what I can do,
Mhm.
right? And we're
Mhm.
funny that way. We want to be noticed
Mhm.
no
Mhm.
matter what. And it's funny how we do that too, because we don't want to overtly
Mhm.
be noticed, but we want to covertly be noticed. So, for example, if a woman gets a new a diamond ring
Mhm.
for engagement, it's funny how she'll start going, "Oh, let me get that." with, right? Let me get that. Oh, you got a new ring. Oh, you noticed. Or
Mhm.
we'll get new glasses, but we won't say to somebody, look at my new glasses.
Mhm.
We'll go up to them and go, hi, how are you?
Mhm.
Oh, you got new glasses. Oh, you
Mhm.
noticed.
Mhm.
So that's all we want. So when you look at the addiction,
Mhm.
you're bang on and correct. The
Mhm.
more likes we get, the
Mhm.
more attention we get, the
Mhm.
more we feel, wow, we're
Mhm.
someone's noticing us, someone cares about us. And that's
Mhm.
also how people fall into the rabbit hole because some two percenter or bully or con man, whatever we want to say,
Mhm.
will say, listen, I know you're unhappy, but I can save you.
Mhm.
I'm your buddy. I'm your friend.
Mhm.
And we easily get sucked in because of our low self esteem.
Okay. So it is easy for anybody, for any of us to understand that if somebody gets addicted to some kind of substance, that okay, they got they're doing drugs. But I don't think that when you were growing up, you would see people getting addicted to a particular technology, which modern social scientists will say behavioral addiction, right? Okay. Um, I'm going to bring in a very important reference here. Herbert Marcuse, who was a social scientist, in his famous book, Eros and Civilization, he talked about it that what the current social system, political system, what it is doing, it is giving us so many options. But what we don't see that it is giving us so many options of the same thing. What it is doing, it is making us conforming citizens, like we need to conform. But what happens, what Marcuse was afraid, and which he very beautifully explained in his other book, that one-dimensional man, by conforming to the societal expectation, what happens, what you said just moments ago, which I think we should do a different episode, is that we lose our sense of self because me wanting to become like Ted or keeping up with the Joneses, I lose my individuality. And when I lose my individuality, I am dancing to someone else's music. So that creates a deep dissatisfaction in us. We live and I'm very proud of you. And whenever I shared your story, that you came out as a gay man in your 40s was an easy option. Was an easy option. But if you did not come out, if you played that heterosexual man having two kids, all of that, you would be deeply unhappy. But something in you told you that you don't want to lead a life that is not you. Something gave you the courage to be you. But now, with the modern technology, you notice that everybody wants to be the like of the Joneses, and we lose our individuality. Keeping up with the Joneses, what happens? We become deeply unhappy, but we pretend to be happy. And then, yeah, and then the sociologist will tell you that as the day ends, we go to the bar, buy alcohol or drinks to numb our pain for not responding to the inner yearning of me to be me. What do you what is your comment on that?
Well, this goes back to beginning of time, if
Hmm.
you will. You
Hmm.
know, the church ran it, and if you said anything against the church or the God at that time, you were a heretic. So if
Hmm.
you were different,
Hmm.
you got punished. And
Hmm.
as we go farther, you look at the schools of the past, even today,
Hmm.
uniforms.
Hmm.
Everybody must look alike,
Hmm.
uniforms.
Hmm.
And when you look at the social media, you got to look this way. You've got to act this way. Your hair's got to be a certain way, all that stuff. And
Hmm.
you're right. A lot of us settle because we don't want to disappoint society, our family, and the
Hmm.
norms. You know, nowadays everybody's talking about grooming and grooming. We've been groomed all our lives. From the
Hmm.
beginning of time, we've been groomed to
Hmm.
fall in line, to be a certain way.
Mhm.
And that's what I try to teach. You don't have to be that way because 98% of the people will
Mhm.
accept us for who we are. Only 2% will criticize us or want to change us. And the more of us who stand up to be our true self, whatever that is, the more society will look around and say, oh, yeah, there are different color sheep. There's not just white sheep. There's black and blue sheep and yellow sheep and green sheep and everything. But the hardest thing for any human
Mhm.
is to take that step to say, I'm going to be me. Now, here's one key tenet
Why
number
is it
two,
hard though, Ted? Why?
because we project that 2% as the 98%.
Okay.
You'll wear an outfit. I've said this before. You'll wear an outfit. 1,000 people will see you in that outfit. One person will come up to you and say you look fat in that, and you'll throw it away, or you'll think about it before you wear it again. Instead of realizing that was one person in 1,000. What I've realized is most of the people in the world don't care about Ted, who he loves, what he wears, how his hair is, his glasses. It's only the 2%. So it's putting, I think this whole thing is putting the 2% into perspective because you don't have to conform to the norms of society. Now, I have to say this though, tenet number two, as you're trying to be a nonconformist or be your true self,
Mhm.
do no harm. Do no harm.
Okay. Let me
And
put a further analysis to your question. I love it what you said. 2% people will come and tell you actively that your shirt makes you look ugly. Get it? But you also have said something I think can get overlooked, that 98% people do not care, means 98% people do not come and tell you that Ted, you look great in that shirt. So
that's right.
because that's that 98% people do not say anything, Brian Klaas has written a book is called Incorruptible, where he argues that we live in a world system where that 2% people that you describe, those bullies, those makers, those sociopaths, the systems in the world is designed as such that these 2% rise in power. You will see around the world in corporations. Um, we have talked about in the previous episodes that it requires a paradigmatic shift. Now, Ted, it is a monumental challenge that humans recently evolved primate with a primal need to belong to a tribe.
That's right.
Primal need to belong to a tribe. We did not have technology in the past that created the entire planet as one tribe because we're not connected. Means a poor child in a small village in Bangladesh is going through insurmountable amount of insecurity because that poor child doesn't look like the Brad Pitts of the world or the Kim Kardashians of the world, right?
Right.
But here's another thing, and probably this is why our discussions, I love it, that we come from two different generations, two different cultures, two different end of the earth. A Harvard cultural anthropologist has written a book recently. It's called The Weirdest People.
That's
Now,
I like that. I like the title.
yeah, weirdest people. So says the Western people, I mean the North American people, to be the weirdest, but it's weird is an acronym, WIERD. WEIRD, right? What he means by weird, W stands for Western, E stands for educated, educated in the modern European ways of getting educated. There are all kinds of getting educated.
Yeah.
So you have Western people, you have educated people, you have people from the industrialized society, people who have been compared to other parts of the world have been historically rich and democratic. So, Western, educated, industrial society, rich, and democratic society. That's one. In these societies like Canada or America, people have developed a capacity to build tribe around people who are not essentially your blood, because you knew that in order to survive, to thrive, you need to be able to cooperate with people who are not your kin. So people in the global north have less need to conform. And in fact, in the book, he outlines that in North America, in Canada, America, parents or society value it when somebody is not a conformist. Rather, conformist is seen to be something. But I go to Bangladesh, go to global south, a nonconformist will be penalized beyond measure, and I know it from my life experiences.
Hmm.
Right? How do we come to terms with it? Because societies like global north, that is weird society, and that they're a small minority, very small compared to the global population. They're a very small number, right? But you have the global majority of the people like China, India, Bangladesh, right? They're the people that are very conformist, very. You cannot say that in China you have democracy, in India you have democracy. It's a very repressive regime, right?
Right.
Ted, it's a challenge. How do we navigate that?
I think we just have to start giving people permission to
Mhm,
be themselves. Now, it's not easy. You're right. How do you navigate that?
mhm,
Um, if the Western society can do it,
mhm,
I believe all other societies and cultures can do it too.
mhm,
And it's a matter of you've probably read the book The Tipping Point.
mhm. Yeah.
So it's a matter of in any society getting that tipping point.
Mhm,
Um, Maybe Iran is at that tipping point now with hijab
mhm,
because it hasn't stopped. It's still going. It's
mhm,
not as it's not as strong as before, but it's still going. Women are now stepping out. Women are now not wearing the hijab in Iran. I just saw an article the other day on the National.
mhm,
And so now you've got those few. Then a little more say, oh, they didn't get killed. No, I can do this. And a little more. Oh, I can do this. A little more. Oh, I can do this. And that happened in the LGBT community.
mhm,
And it happened in people who decided they didn't want to be the religion that their parents wanted them to be. And
mhm,
it slowly grew up. But it takes a special person to be able to look at themselves and say, you know what? I'm okay just being me.
mhm,
And you're right, it's not easy. And the first few people are going to suffer. The next few people may not suffer as badly. But eventually, I do believe through the concept of the tipping point, societies do change. I'm concerned right now about Western society that
mhm,
it might be going backwards because of that tipping point. And we
mhm,
need to make sure that we don't lose our democracy, lose our rights and everything because some despots want to flex their muscles and get into power. So the rest of us need to stand up. It's a constant not visualization, be constantly visual
mhm,
about who I am. I do that every day, and I'm sure you do. You walk down the street and you look at someone and say, okay, are they staring at me because of what I'm wearing? And then
mhm,
you have to say, I don't care.
mhm,
But that still is a little bit, there's a little bit in there that says, hmm, should I be doing this or shouldn't I be doing this?
mhm,
We constantly are asking that question every single day of our lives. Unlike nature, the squirrel does the squirrel, the tree does the tree. It doesn't turn around and say, oh, should I be greener today? We're the only animal on earth who questions every single motive and motion that we do. And that's why with the model, I do once in a while, but I very rarely question it because I say, no, as long as I'm doing Ted, but while I'm doing Ted, respecting everybody else and not harming anybody else, why can't I do Ted? We've said this before. If I want to put ketchup in my coffee, right? That's my business.
So, why do you think that the Western society run the risk of? We have about 5 minutes for this episode. Why do you think the Western society runs the risk of becoming regressive?
Because I think people are buying into the concept that it's not okay. I
Mhm,
talked to some people yesterday. Oh,
mhm,
Canada. And I looked
mhm,
at them and I said, wait a minute.
mhm,
Canada's not that bad. Oh, we got to get rid of Trudeau. Why? What's he done? So we need to start questioning the false rhetoric that's going on in our society today.
Hmm.
the false rhetoric that says it's not all right. Actually, things are pretty darn good in Canada and the United States compared to other countries in the world.
Hmm.
Europe, it's pretty darn good, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you could go on and on. But what someone is doing is they're telling us things aren't good because they want us to follow or drink their Kool-Aid and follow what they want us to do. And that's creating the divisiveness in our society, that tribalism. So I'm on your tribe, not on their tribe, rather than saying, you know what, their tribe isn't that bad. And we're all in the same boat. We're trying to just survive, just be good, just trying to feed our family, just
Hmm.
trying to be ourselves. So we have to be very aware in today's society that there's the people out there who are saying the people with the pitchforks are trying to take your torches,
Hmm.
when that's not the truth. By understanding the model and the law of cooperative action,
Hmm.
I know that the people aren't trying to take my pitchfork.
Right. So when you say law of cooperative action, I say the same thing. I translate your model with my research background into relationality, that
Yeah,
thing, everybody is connected to everybody. We are individuals that is connected to a complex web of interdependence. If I do things that harms you, eventually that harms me, because your well-being is connected to my well-being. But I will be violent towards you, compromise your well-being, if my ignorance tells me by stealing from Ted I'm going to be better off. But in fact, no. And I mean, I started off talking about Herbert Marcuse. Marcuse talked about this, in 1920s, that the world is not constrained by resource limitation. It is the distribution problem. There is enough in the world to go around, but a handful of people are hoarding so much that rest of us are struggling. But you can obviously, when you say that things are pretty good in United States and in Canada compared to many other countries, yes. I would also like to add to that, and that if you look at the poverty statistics, poverty data, you will see that in the last 40, after 70s, you will see that the number of people who are poor has increased in number in the United States, has increased in the number in Canada. Overall wealth has increased, but it has not been redistributed well. And a lot of the people will tell you that when people are hurting economically, they become susceptible to believing into things that are not true, that jeopardizes Western democracy. In fact, it was Western democracy that led Western countries to such level of progress. But it is the economic inequality that is risking Western democracy, that is telling, oh no, get rid of government. Okay, so all right, get rid of Trudeau, get rid of Biden. I get it. So who do you want to be in place? You want to get rid of the government? Like, where do we go? So can we talk in the next episode what you said in the beginning, Ted? That in order to live peacefully, we should be able to be grounded in our sense of self, right? Do you have any last thoughts? We have about 2 minutes.
well, just on what you said, if you look at the strike right now of General Motors and all the strike, the CEO of General Motors is making $29 million a year. The GM workers are actually probably paid better than the average in the United States.
Mhm.
But when they look at the ratio, as you said, of her $29 million
Mhm.
and their $40, $50 an hour, whatever they're making now, they get disgruntled. So I think I wrote a paper once on the capitalism with a heart,
Mhm.
and we could talk about that one time too. Because if you
Mhm.
treat your people well,
Mhm.
if you make sure they're very happy with what they want, they won't
Mhm.
be disgruntled, and therefore we won't have this schism that we have, that's going on in the world.
Right. Thank you, Ted. So we end this episode with the fact that capitalism is not essentially that bad if we knew how to redistribute. But
No, that's right.
yeah, yeah. So I will back that up with um, some arguments that capitalism does what it does because it can create that inequality.
Of
It can
course.
create that monstrous companies and what have you. So that is the end of this episode. We will see you in the next episode. Thank you, Ted.
Okay.